As a result of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, signed into law 2021, the Federal Highway Administration has increased funding allocated to Texas for more areas to safely walk, ride bicycles, and other non-motorized modes. Research shows that providing safe sidewalks, crossings, shared use paths, and bicycle lanes are the best way to improve the safety of people walking, using assistive mobility devices, and cycling. This federal funding program is called the Transportation Alternative Program. Transportation Alternative funds are unique when compared to other federal funding programs. This video helps to explain some of the unique aspects that local cities, counties, their consultants, and other eligible entities should know, so they can apply for these funds and develop infrastructure that enables bicyclists and pedestrians to reach their destinations safely. Transportation Alternative Funding is separately distributed to the Texas Department of Transportation, TxDOT, and the 10 large metropolitan planning organizations, MPOs, of Texas. These large MPOs include a census-urbanized area with a population of 200,000 or greater, referred to as Transportation Management Areas, TMAs, that competitively select transportation alternative funds to local jurisdictions within their boundaries as one of their responsibilities. TxDOT is responsible for competitively selecting projects for suballocated funds outside of these TMA boundaries and for transportation alternative funds available to the whole state. Federal rules require MPOs and TxDOT to develop transparent evaluation processes to competitively select projects for transportation alternative awards. Transportation alternative funds must be awarded only to projects which are related to bicycle, pedestrian, and/or micromobility modes, principally for transportation rather than recreation, a direct relationship to the surface transportation system, benefit to the general public, and publicly accessible. Transportation Alternative is a reimbursement program. After a project is authorized to proceed, allowable expenses are incurred and paid by the project sponsor, and then the reimbursement must be requested from TxDOT. Once the request is received, it is reviewed for eligible expenses and reimbursement is provided to the project sponsor. Any expenses incurred prior to the authorization to proceed, including grant writing, are not reimbursable expenses. Federal funding rules make transportation alternatives funds time-sensitive. Transportation alternative funds will be returned to the federal government if they are not obligated for construction letting 3 years after the year they were authorized to the state. This means all transportation alternatives projects must be let for construction within 3 years of award, or risk losing funding. This timing constraint also affects projects that require coordination with outside agencies or require right-of-way acquisition. For example, local governments interested in applying are encouraged to plan ahead for time-consuming tasks such as railroad coordination, if a project is within 100 feet of railroad right-of-way, utility coordination, environmental issues, right-of-way acquisition, and public involvement before submitting a project for funding consideration. Project sponsors should review these aspects of their projects and consider beginning to address them before an application is submitted. This unique quality of transportation alternatives funding means bundling projects with other funding streams for larger roadway improvement projects can be challenging. Transportation Alternatives Program requires a match from the local project sponsor, usually 20% of the overall project cost, but the local match may be less depending on the program rules of the state or the MPO hosting the call for projects. Working with federal funds requires certain processes, oversight, and responsibilities. Projects are required to meet federal and state design standards and contracting regulations and requirements. All project sponsors awarded funding under the TA programs who propose to manage and perform any work on the project will be required to designate a responsible person in charge, RPIC, a project manager, PM, and a qualified person in accordance with TxDOT's Local Government Project Program, LGPP. Refer to TxDOT Local Government Projects Toolkit for requirements here. If you are interested in applying for these federal funds, contact TxDOT's Bicycle and Pedestrian Program or your local MPO to better understand the timing of their competitive selection process. You can identify and contact your local MPO by following this QR code. TxDOT hosts calls for projects every other year while each MPO maintains their own consistent schedule. TxDOT and Texas MPOs invite you to take advantage of historic levels of funding for safe pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure.